video is going to go a little bit long, but we're building a super transom. What can you do? Sometimes it takes a while. We're going to actually build the transom, laminate two pieces together and clamp it in. Then we'll build the bottom pieces of the transom because the first part's at one angle and the bottom part's at another angle. So it's going to be three pieces, and previously there was just a small piece of plywood on the bottom that didn't really fill the whole area and wasn't really part of the transom. But what I'm going to do is make it all one solid 1.5 inch piece core and a whole bunch of 1808 over the top of it and really tab it in. You'll get to see all of that happen in this one. It's very long, but it's pretty cool, and it's a super transom in the end. I found a couple more trouble areas that need to be dealt with, and in order to really deal with them, I need to make a template for my transom first because I have to cut some of this stuff up. So I noticed here, there's a crack. It's on both sides. I don't know if that's from transom stress or something else. Maybe this got bumped. I don't know. But there's a crack here as well. And this bit isn't really attached to the transom. But what we've got going is the transom gets laminated to this and to the edge here. And that's where this crack is right here. Now I need this to be a two-sided repair. I just want everything thick and good. So I'm going to have to remove some of this just so I can get at that and repair it and then lay this all back up nice. Now on this side, it's the same, but worse. This side has a crack that's sort of split and you can see in it. And I mean it's just gone. That's no good. So I've got to do that on both sides. But before I do that, I'm going to make my transom template. So the transom really lays on this area at this angle. Down here, this is flat. And then we'll add some coring in here and fiberglass this all together just like it was. But first, let's make the template. So I bought this $4 piece of 1/8 inch sheeting, and what I'm going to do is take a hot glue gun and cut this into the correct shape and make a really good template. I'm just going to hot glue pieces together so that I've got this shape before I remove this and can't get my shape anymore. So I've got my template scribed out here. I'm going to cut my transom in two pieces out of this 3/4 inch marine grade plywood. I'm going to cut the first one to the template, which fits in there still, and make sure that it fits, sort of a dry fit, and make sure that it's going to fit the full 1.5 inches out on the back here. Then after that's sanded and fit just right, I will go ahead and use that as a template for the second one. And then before I install it, I've got a few things to do. Right here I've got an air bubble in my glass. I've got to grind that out and fix that. And I'm going to put a bigger layer in here of the 1808 because there was a really big void here. And I just want to make sure that's solid. I'm also going to do a bit more with some thickened resin and sort of fill in this void where that other piece of plywood acting as kind of a transom knee was, and make sure that area is ready before I install the new transom so I can replace those boards next. And in these corners where I did the thickened epoxy, I need to lay up some of that. I think I'm going to use the 1808 through here and make sure that those repairs are solid on both sides. Then my new transom can go in. Here we've got our two pieces of transom. The sides that are up are the sides that will be laminated together. I'm going to give them each another quick wipe with solvents just to be safe and make sure we're super clean. Then I'm going to add a layer of resin just to make sure that the wood doesn't soak up too much before I try to laminate them together and I end up with a dry laminate that's not really stuck good. I might do that twice. After that, I'll lay my chop strand down, wet it all out, get all the air out, wet the other side, smash them together, put some weight on it, and the transom will be just about ready to go in. Of course, once it's all together, you're going to have to grind the edges down a bit, make sure it's all tight and right, and wet out all of the edges and the other sides. But first, I'm going to cut the chop strand to size, wet these out, let the wood soak some resin up, make sure we're good to go. So you can see here on my transom pieces, the wood in many places has absorbed a lot of the resin. And I'm going to put another layer on there just to be sure that that doesn't happen when I laminate these together. I want a real strong bond here. We don't want spots where the resin is soaked in and we have a real thin laminate. While we're waiting on the transom to absorb some resin and be ready to laminate together, I'm going to finish patching the rest of the holes where it goes so we get a nice, clean, solid laminate here, and I'm ready to do my repairs on the outside when we get there. there's my transom. Pretty sure she's laminated solid by now. I'm gonna pull all that stuff off there and clean up the edges, start sealing it up, get it ready to go in the boat. Back here, after the transom's in, I'm gonna put some plywood down here on the angled piece as well, and then laminate that all in with many layers. But first, let's get the transom all cleaned up and stuff and get back after this. I can get my finger here so the camera will focus a bit. So this came out pretty good. All the way around, oozed out, get no gaps. I don't see any air. Maybe a couple spots where some bubbles poked out and there's some air on the edge of the glass. But I think we've got her solid. Now I've got to grind this away, kind of grind the edge down a bit, take some thickened resin and go over this whole edge after I smoothed it out, because there's going to be some voids in the plywood like this. Plus this wood will absorb some resin. And I'm just going to coat all sides of it before I laminate it in and fill the edges and everything. Came out pretty nice, so this will get the chop strand on it and get clamped onto the back of the boat that's covered in resin. But I want this edge to be very much sealed, and there's at least a couple spots where there's a small void in the plywood after I've cut it. Nothing where I laminated it, but still I want everything filled and really sealed. So I'm going to seal it with resin, but I've also cut some chop strand to 1.5 inches, and I'm gonna lay that up on here before I laminate this transom in and fill whatever void ends up between here and the boat with thickened resin. I think that chop strand is just an extra good layer of protection. Make sure it's sealed. You know, the resin, just the resin, can eventually peel or crack. If you've got the chop strand matting on there, I feel like it's better. So I let that first round soak up a bit. Now I've just saturated it again. Forgot to turn the camera on. And I'll bring my chop strand over and start putting it down. I've got the edges on the bottom and the sides sealed, and then a layer of chop strand just to really be sure it's sealed before I fill that void with thickened resin and tab this all in after it's on there. What I'm going to do now is just a bit of sanding to make sure we're all real prepped. This is the back side that's got to be laminated to the boat there. And I want it to just be perfect, so we'll prep it and probably on the front round the edge a little bit so that when I laminate it in, that goes easier. I've just about got her ready. Got all my clamps ready. Let's get a transom on this boat. Time to take care of my 1 or 2 little air bubbles. Get that layup in there. Make sure everything in this area is ready for a transom. Then I can patch these holes and get ready for this. I have a piece dry fit to go in here, but first I'm going to take some thickened resin because there's a pretty big void here still, even though I've added quite a bit. By the time I ground that down, you know, there was a hole and there was just very little left, so I'm going to add some thickened resin there, then put that matting in. Fill this void and some more thickened resin first, but then I'm going to put these pieces in. Is it overkill? Yeah, probably, but this is where the transom's going to be laminated to the sides of the boat, and I want it to be nice. So I'll mark those up, get to mixing some resin, put the thickened stuff in, and go ahead and slap those right on without letting it cure or anything. These pieces here, after I've got my cracks that existed sort of fixed up with some thickened resin, I'm going to put these big matte pieces in. So I've labeled them for which side they are, but another nice trick, because I want to wet out the back of this first, is to just take a Sharpie and kind of mark the edges of something that give you a bit of alignment. You know, I can put a mark on the fiberglass here. This is my corner. That's where my matting should land. That makes life a lot easier for you, you know, you can do that all over the place. So this is the back of the boat where the transom's going to get laminated. I will cover that with resin after I sand it smooth. I've got the holes filled, and then put some chop strand on the back of the transom and clamp it in there. However, the angle isn't perfect with the bottom of the boat. I'm going to have to try to fill that void, and same here on the sides where the transom's going to come here with thickened resin after I get it in. So if you made it this far in the video, I thought I'd give you a little sneak peek of the color I'm considering the most for this boat. I think it's pretty cool. It's pink with some black and silver, a little bit of gold in there, maybe a few purple flakes. I think it looks pretty awesome. That's the name of it. This is the metal flake I'd be adding to a clear gel. You tell me though in the comments section, is this cool? Is it too much? Is it ridiculous? I think it'd be pretty neat on this boat. But this video has run on a little long, so building the super transom will have to have a second part. You can see me build these bottom bits down here and the whole laminating schedule for getting that thing ready for pretty well anything. If I had a 2.5 Merc, you know, an offshore Bridgeport EFI motor, around 300, 350 horse, boy, that would be super cool. I don't have one, but it'll be ready for it. That'll be in the next video, and I appreciate you guys watching. Press the subscribe button if you can, it really helped me out. We'll go ahead and get that one up as quickly as we can. Editing is difficult and takes time, I'm sorry about that. But there is a lot of other stuff done that'll be in videos after you see me finish the transom, and you can see how far along we are in this boat.